Okay, someone already said this week, computer vision is good for a task I don't want to do, but the computer can do for me. Right? Like we have birds in captivity in our field, in our field station. We record their behavior. There are 24 birds. We end up with millions of frames every day. The experiment lasts few weeks. I don't want to watch the videos. I want the computer to watch the video, tell me if they are active and how are they oriented. So you should tend to think about computer vision, about the extraction and information from the image analysis. But the point I want to make today is that actually the computer vision workflow starts already when you decide how you acquire your images. Because as you have many algorithms to analyze your images, there are a lot of hardware you can choose from when you acquire the images. So you can choose your illumination, the lens that define the camera geometry, the sensor as well. So today I will give you an example with something for each of these, which you probably are not familiar with or you haven't used yet. Like for the illumination, one thing that you can do, for instance, you can use the environmental light, but you can decide, for instance, to put your subject between the light source and your sensor, that you have a very contrasted images. This is of a marine copperpot. It's very easy to segment, of course. But we can do better. We can improve the contrast. We can make the background pitch black and your subject very bright. So your subject becomes your light source. We can do it, for instance, with fluorescent nanoparticles. That is, fluorescent means that they absorb wavelength at shorter wavelengths and emit light at longer wavelengths of a color of your choice. Things get interesting when colleagues from the aquatic unit in this department develop a protocol to label an entire organism and made a fluorescent Daphnia. Then what you need in this case is just your illumination source that excite the particles, that is this particle area, and then you need the long pass filter that makes your camera blind to the excitation light, but not with the emitted light of the particles. That is the yellow and red in this slide. And then you move from the situation that you have here on the left of this kind of image. When you see the average luminosity of the Daphne is the red arrow. This is really easy to segment. And what you haven't right, it's a video that shows that we can use a much larger volume here. We use 30 times a larger volume to do this experiment. We can actually do this experiment that track the onset of DL vertical migration in zooplankton. You know that the plankton do this vertical migration. They migrate toward deeper depths during the day, and they use the UV content in the sunshine, in the sunlight when they do it. So they swim in the dark, then we trick on the UV, and they start their migration. Now, this was never done in such detail because usually it's done on a population level, just sampling different water depths. That's why it became a book text example. I'm afraid you cannot see the beautiful image that they've produced here. So, but the message is there. So make your organisms shine if you can. But there are other ways that you can do it. I will show another one at the end of the talk. Next one is the camera geometry. I showed you the results of the setup. I haven't shown the setup itself. It's composed by 4 cameras. And since we are tracking the Daphne in 3D, we are using the stereo camera model. It means we need to know the geometry of each camera and how they are related to each other. Then, since our object is moving underwater, we need to account for the air-water interaction and take into account the Snell laws of refraction. So, long story short, this is a complex system and it's a hell to calibrate. We can make things simpler if we can use a smaller volume. In that case, we can, for instance, using beta-eccentric lenses that are lenses that have the input and the entrance and the exit iris at infinity. What it means that with the traditional lens, we cannot extract 3D information because, as you see, you have this perspective effect. The red arrow that goes far from the lens, it becomes smaller on your sensor. With the telecentric lenses, this magnification effect does not occur. That means you can use to extract 2D information from a three-dimensional environment. And since all the incoming light is collimated, there is no refraction effect to account for it. On top of this, you also have low vignettation. If you work with backlight, you know that you will get darker area around the image. It does not occur in this with telecentric lens. And of course, you can track our copper pod in 3D if you use a stereo system with telecentric lens like this. But you cannot do everything. There is a big limitation with these lenses, that the field of view has to be as big. Well, the front part of the lens, the front lens has to be as big as your field of view. So if you work with 10 centimeters field of view, it's okay. If you work with half a meter, then they became big, huge, and expensive. But my point is that you need to account for the geometry of your camera. Like the first day, Emmanuel showed that moving your camera 6 meters away did the trick for him. So it's not about the lenses, it's think in terms of geometry. Very last part is about the camera sensor that you choose. Now we need to jump outside the water and go back to the birds. And I tell you how orientation is measured in birds. It's measured with the so-called Emblem funnel. It is a funnel shape cage that you line with a thermal paper. Then when the birds take off, leaves marks on this paper. Then when you look at the paper, as is, I use scan with the flatbed scanner, by the way. No. It's like doing computer vision without computer, because these represent a heat map of where the bird has been during your stay, right? And you can extract the information about its orientation. Now, problem is that we don't have temporal resolution here, right? And to get the temporal resolution, well, guess what? We use a camera, and then we track the behavior of the bird. Now we have something to compare, because the thermal paper, we use the marks on the thermal paper is a proxy that tells us where the bird has been. Here, we are tracking the exact takeoff direction of the bird. And with our surprise, we discovered that they don't tell the same story. This is also not supposed to appear like this, but the point is that, that as you see, the orientation that they provide is different. And thermal paper do not even reach the significant level as the camera does. So in other words, we are stick on trying to track the takeoff direction of the bird itself. But this image, as you see, it's not great. There is a net on it that reduces contrast. We need to record it at night because that's when bird migrates. So it would be nice if we could make this bird shine like a Daphne, right? But without nanoparticles. So we thought about this. One idea came when we saw a thermal surveillance camera. Thermal camera, actually, the bigger market probably is about the surveillance. Because as you see from this image, with a normal camera, you cannot spot that there is someone at the end of this parking lot during a foggy day. Now, since the axis that is producing these cameras are 3 blocks away, we knocked on the door and say, can we try if we can use your camera to see if we can see birds? And the reply was, of course you can see birds. I can see it in my backyard. So I say, okay, great, but we still want to see it in our lab, right? so they gave us a couple of cameras, and we did try this in the lab. And indeed, the contrast is much higher. Because we just want to do a simple task. We want to know which side of the cage the bird is. At this one, it's very easy to try. So to recap, we are not using a thermal camera that gives us temperature information like Eric is doing. Those are quite expensive because you need to calibrate the sensor in a specific way. You need to actually calibrate every pixel for a range of temperature. That's why the surveillance cameras are cheaper, because they are only used for detection. They don't tell you the temperature of your object, like in this case. But then we realized this image is very good. We can also do it with less pixels than this. And then we can go even cheaper. So this is the smallest thermal camera that we found. It's 24 by 36 pixels. It's super cheap. And then we decide, let's make our thermal camera. And this is, I mean, you cannot tell that it's a bird, but this is doing tracking with literally 3 lines of code here. And you can do it in real time on a battery-powered Raspberry Pi that takes care of a bunch of other sensors directly in the field. And you can do it in a battery in 10, 15, 20 different cages. And as you see, is in a small Tupperware, as every prototype should be, right? So that's my take-home message is the hardware matters. If you are starting up your computer vision project, start at the end. What kind of measure you need? What measure do you need? This will tell what kind of image analysis and algorithm you need to use. And in turn, this will tell which is the best hardware to do the job. So, and with this, I need to thank everyone on this slide, including the bird, and you for listening. Thank you.